give you a heads up.
It's everything agriculture with Bankie and Yahsonn. Talking food security, cannabis, farming, livestock, fisheries, and everything agriculture. Every week on Real Entertainment Network. Hey, hey. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally, feed the whole community. Everything agriculture, building for the future. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Too much food coming overseas. One disruption bring the country to knees. One storm, one war, one delay. Supermarket shelves empty same day. So we have to plant more yam and dasheen. Fresh vegetables keep the people clean. Raise more goat, more chicken too. Local farming must come true. Every backyard can grow something. Pepper, thyme and pumpkin. Teach the youth we love the soil. Agriculture reward the tile. Hey, if the import stop tomorrow, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. If the import stop tomorrow, hey, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally, feed the whole community. Everything agriculture, building for the future. Hey, Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Cannabis industry growing fast, creating opportunities built to last. Medicinal herbs and business too. Education changing how we view. Greenhouse farming changing the game. Hydroponics helping the grain. Fishery, livestock, fruit tree line. Agriculture make the island shine. Support local every chance they get. Farmer working hard, don't forget. No nation strong if the people can't eat. Local food keep the country complete. Wave your hand for the farmers them. Wave your hand for the growers them. Plant more food. Grow more food. Feed the nation like we should. From St. Kitts straight across every side. Food security.
Yes, good evening and welcome to the Everything Agriculture Show on Real Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Bankie, my other host over there, Yahsonn Tafari. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in on another Friday evening. You can be doing anything on the weekend, just relaxing, spending some time with the family, or listening to another radio station or media house, but you choose to spend that time with us. So remember to always share and subscribe and click onto the YouTube and the other media house, YouTube, Twitch TV. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me say good evening to the folks in the neighboring island. Other folks here in, let me say, Oli and which is the indigenous name, or which we call St. Kitts and Nevis, and the folks over in Sabre, Statia, St. Martin, the US Virgin Islands, the BVI, and the folks over in the other Leeward and Windward Island. Greatly appreciate you in the Real Entertainment Network, and also the folks in the diaspora, North America, from the Florida Keys, Texas, Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, Boston, wherever you're at in North America and Canada and all over into Europe in the different time zones. I know it's late again in the evening, but still some of the listeners choose not to go to rest until they listen to these shows, and greatly appreciate that. It shows a lot that we are doing something right. I know sometimes people might take it, they say we're too tough sometimes, but I don't think nothing named tough. We just ask the general questions, that question most people don't feel like to ask. Once you're going to representing the people in public figure, you can't be too thin skinned and you can't be taking things personally because you're working for us. We are the people, and that's just how it is. So we welcome all views. This evening we'll be speaking about agriculture, food security, and also cannabis. And definitely, this is something we can't speak enough on food security because really what's going on right now around the world. War have never, since I'm in primary school, you learn about the USSR, the Russian, the Soviet Union, and you st- I'm nearly 50 years old and you're still hearing about all these things still going on, war upon war. But as you go and you educate yourself, you educate yourself from what you learn in school and realize it's system that is put in place where war is business and a lot of things can controlled when it comes to food, but we tend to overlook this thing. We don't realize all of our money are going out the country. People are being controlled, and food is one thing that is used as a weapon. And just to show, we say we are so brilliant, but other people, those who control the land, go and control the food and control the water. 'Cause it is under there. Food is used as a weapon, just as nuclear bomb, starvation, and these things happen on a daily basis, every day, every hour. If you Google it, it said over 250,000 people have more died every hour. So you still going on? Okay. But before we get into discussion, Yahsonn, we're going on with you.
Yeah, global greetings. Welcome to another edition of Everything Agriculture. And Bankie, as I listen to you, I am reminded of a phrase or a saying that is I usually hear from another brother that I listen to called Ralph Smart. And Ralph Smart usually remind me that we are the only species that pay to live on the planet. I mean, let that sink in. But it's a reality. The birds don't pay to live here. The cows don't pay to live here. The sheep, the goat, the pigs, and they find way to live and find ways to multiply and survive and keep their generation going over all of these years. And they don't pay for no water, they don't pay for no food, they don't pay for no nothing, right? But we have been duped into even paying for water. We pay for conditioned air, you know. Some things to think about. So we even ignore, we get into ignoring the things that we grew up on. The yam, the dasheen, the breadfruit, the golden apple, the sugar apple, and custard apple, and so on. We wouldn't want to put those things in our children's lunch kit, because when Mrs. Jones child look over and see that that's what he got and he laugh after. Look at what you got. That's what you got for lunch. That's what you got for snack. So we want to make sure that we like the Joneses. We have what the Joneses have in their lunch kits and their lunch boxes. But I think it's a time that we really need to, based on a lot of what's going on. Um, you know, we're gonna have to really zoom in on the foods that we have around us. We're gonna have to find ways of creating our own seed banks. I think we're gonna have to start maybe from a personal level. I think this is something that we at this point I don't think we could and should wait on government to initiate this. I think we as a people really need to start to find ways to maintain a lot of the seeds from the indigenous plants that we have around us, whatever fruit trees. And if we have friends or family who have the skills of whether it's grafting or ear layering, and you can help to reproduce and reproduce at that level where when you do reproduce, that plant would be the next year that plant in terms of ear layering and so on. These things we're gonna have to do to try to maintain as much as possible some of the indigenous plants that we have around us, so that we can be prepared for what is ahead in terms of food security, because a lot of the challenges that we face, Banky, we still ain't even tip the iceberg. It's not even the tip of the iceberg when we start to look at the seed engineering and re-engineering of the seeds, where to the point where sometimes you plant a seed, and in order for you to get that identical fruit again, you have to go back to the person who sold you that variety of seed in order for you to get it back, because it's not true to farm. If you get the seed from that crop that you cultivated, you might get a whole different variety, or there might just be, maybe after 2 generations, you might just not get any seeds from that plant. And these things are designed in a way to control. Again, it's control, because who control the seeds control you. And if you have to go to somebody to purchase the seeds to grow food, then you're really on a whole different level. They have gotten to this seedless thing where, I recall when I was in the US, sometimes it was a challenge to get some seeded watermelons, because they started to make excuses, say, well, what if a child swallow the seed and all of these kind of things, like people would not have been eating watermelon with seeds from creation, But they find all of these excuses to justify the things that they want to do and want to implement and so on. So we have to be vigilant as a people and begin to think of these things and be proactive. So creating a seed bank, trying to maintain a lot of these indigenous plants. I really got a bit set back, Bankie, in relation to my quest to replant a lot of these indigenous plants that we have around us. But I'll get back to it. I'm going to get back into my nursery, where I can be able to provide some of these, things that we have like around here, the nutmeg, the cocoa, the mansiport. I want these things to be common again, the shaddock. I mean, you were seeking to do a bit of that over at Indian Castle and so on with the project, but I am still very much interested in seeking to ensure that we can maintain bread nut. I mean, I didn't get a chance to go to see the bread nut festival, but I think it was today. I hope it was a success. But we would need to, in order to make that a bigger event, right? We would need to get back into cultivating a bit more bread nuts, so we could have a lot more dishes and have a wider scope of culinary products from the bread nut. With that said, Bankie, we could begin. I didn't touch on cannabis in my introduction, but I want to touch on it as well. I really think that we are lagging behind in relation to cannabis, and I think that a lot more need to be done in terms of the education, the PRO, especially from the government side, the legislative side, and even the judiciary side. So I'm going to, at this point, encourage any constitutional lawyer who is willing to come on the platform with us. Put your hands up and reach out to us, and so we could have a discussion, especially where cannabis is concerned, and help to demystify and clarify and help us as well, because maybe we might be clear, but because of the messengers, I always say sometimes it is skewed, because people just see us as Rastamen, and they would say, oh, the Rastaman just defend it because they want to go smoke up the thing and all that. So sometimes when you have other voices, even if they're saying the same things that we are saying,
yeah, but Yahsonn, we are professionals. But at the same time, we are professionals.
I know that. But sometimes
you have to have thousands and thousands of the same people, children, and them. And
yes,
I have done the
Bankie.
same way.
Yes, we know all of that. But there's some people who just see the image. You can't take it away, Bankie. Don't care how educated we are. They just see two Rasta man. Just like police. Police don't differentiate whether you're Bobo or you're 12 tribe or you're Nyabingi or you're all this is a Rasta man. So that's the reality. So I sometimes like to have other voices, people who are deemed prominent and esteemed in their society as well, to come and say some of the same things that we are saying. I don't mind, because the end result for me is that people do understand and really accept the fact and go and research for themselves too. So that's another part. So you don't have to accept what we are saying in relation to cannabis and or any other issue that we bring up here. We want you to go and research. This is a time that you're living in that's considered the information age. And I mean, it is getting so interesting right now with AI. I mean, if you want to know something right now and you have access to one or two of these different, whether it's Claude or, DeepSeek, or whether it's Chat GPT, or whether it's Perplexity, or some of these other AI apps, you can just type in whatever it is you want to know, and they would go and do the research for you, and in less than a minute, you have it at your fingertips. So I remember one time Kanye West had said, why you said that upset them by you if you so well, anyway, but you choose to be ignorant in these times. You choose to be ignorant because the information is there, and I guess that's what he was trying to say. That's what I gathered from what he was trying to say when they get upset with him. That he was saying basically, I mean, the information is there today. If you don't know, it's because you ain't want to know. Ain't like in a we time where we have to go and get an encyclopedia because them things they what them could just type in. Even they don't even got to type. Cause in this time too, you don't even have to know how to spell. You got the voice activated that way you could just say it like Siri or Alexa or whatever it be, and just say, hey, blah 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 blah, and they go and find it and bring it up for you. Sometimes they don't even give you the words; they can give you a video with it as well too. You know, an audio version of it, so you can listen to it. So you ain't got no excuse. You ain't got no excuse. So people, anyway, give thanks for all those who are logging in and listening. If you're already logged in, I'm encouraging you to go on over to our YouTube platform, click on the notification bell, subscribe, like, share, let everybody know, even your enemies, that we are here on Real Entertainment Network and we're in on for another interesting edition of Everything Agriculture. Bankie?
Yes, Yahsonn, around these times, we get the Sahara dust. And, we tend to say we are in the hurricane season and into the summertime also. It's the festive time, this month is music festival time. And also some fathers, they coming up and all the different stuff like that. But wise, it's summertime, you get less farming. Someone says our dry season, but right now, the place is hot. You can't, and it being hot for a while, kind of go on the other side of, especially beyond Castleaway coming around, and this side anyway from Rollins area coming on to Hamilton, Caseway area, the hillside, then the green zone is pretty much but it's still getting there, and you're going to still get more and more into the car. We just basically starting in June. Agriculture is something that use one of those industries use a lot of water, and we're doing a very poor job when it comes to harnessing water in the farming zones around the island, because it don't make no sense. Farmers have been tapping into the main water source, just like when I was at Indian Castle, I was pushing the project along with the farmer peers, Mr. Sargent, to get a solar pump. That was the plan, to tap into that source, because you don't want to be using the water when you can use water for farming. It's just the right thing to do. And the other water, potable water, can go into other development. Can we keep adding? It's just like you want to do development destiny, where you want to Nevis water, then I want to build what desalination plant, and then send out the salt and the barrels to destroy the reefs and stuff that is out there. We gotta be do better than this. Is this week I'm listening to Minister Maynard on the radio speaking about water and stuff like that. It is sad because what is going on now should have been done under Team Unity and under Douglas. So we have dropped the ball in St. Kitts more than 20 plus years, and we're still not getting it right. And the people accepting fault from these politicians upon each other, and it is the wrong thing, because we have given away so much money and so much unfinished project, and we still cannot feed ourselves. We have our local banks having billions of dollars sitting down, and our local banks are giving, indigenous banks giving away money to international brand hotel, Marriott's, Christopher Harbour, and all these other hotels, Kittishman Hill. And the farmers, fisher folks, agro processors are getting fight to get duty concession off of a vehicle, and then they won't tell you the choice of vehicle you can have, not a Jeep, about this or that. It's crap. If a farmer want to bring in a Benz or whatever kind of vehicle, a Rolls Royce, they should be getting the duty, can put in the work. You can't tell a man what to buy. If a man want to rent a truck when they need a truck, he rent it. But the man should be comfortable enough. That's what me always love swapping. Swap always buy a kind of sports car, a kind of this and that, and he's a fisherman, but he pop a trunk, a fish in there. You see me to show you? I saw them, he put the engine in there. But we have been duped into a lot of nonsense. How what a farmer should, or what a fisherman should drive, or someone in agriculture is been looked down on. But without food is our fuel. So how can we not be able to sustain ourselves when we have done it for centuries, feeding other nations and build other nations off of the same food source? Come on, man. We spoke to Willie Doe, and he spoke about the amount of 15 acres of these things, just we call it the avocados, shipping food throughout the region to Barbados and different stuff. You talk about this gentleman from over in Montserrat, Walter Wade, at Penny's Estate. As you to go up, you see what's going on. We got to get back into agriculture, Virgin. We have been jelly, bananas from Dominica feed us these things for the last 20 plus years. We should be ashamed. Bananas are better soil than us. So the food can't taste better than we want, and we all can agree on these things. So if we all can agree on these things, why are we in this failure when it comes to the agriculture sector and all government? All. Right now the government is thinking have brought in what I say, but whatever is a grant or whatever, I'm in a business. 5,000 gallon tank. I want to see one tank full up already. And which resource how you gonna get water into the tank. You see? We got to drill small wells and farm in some farms, and water could be distributed in other farms. But we're not investing in agriculture, Virgin. We are not. And we are pushing food festivals. Check it out. Culturama is about food. All the festivals is about food. Music festival got some kind of food thing coming up with inside there. The mango festival about food. But then the food that is there, most of it is coming in the container. Just think about it. We're promoting these food cultural activities. That's why we said took part in this activity that went there, because I wanted to showcase everything that I have on the table is from Nevis. Everything. Yeah, everything that is on the table come out of the farm and from other some of the mangoes, but the banana, the plantain, and the jackfruit and different stuff I get from one or two. But everything, nothing they imported. The coconut water you drink, the marble you drink, the bark come off the farm and stuff like that. And that's how we're supposed to promote things. Not to go this come from Rams and this come from this and imported stuff. That's what tell the people, here the problem. Because any leader that manages a country is supposed to have agriculture under the belt and healthcare. So nobody got to convince me when I know failure, because I mark hard. And I ain't taking on no project that I know. You think I'll take out the project when the minister sweat and the PSS sweat? I'll be telling the veg. I'll be ask, make sure you're getting connected with Roger, who in charge of water department at the time. The one in the field, and we link up with culture, and I'll ask them enough water. It was designed to run down there, and we want more acreage if you need to increase. And he said yes, that was good enough for me. You understand? And I asked culture, the culture, you can get water here and water there. Say, Bankie, no problem. Good. So once they give me the resource, I see the outcome. Israel in a desert, you hear me say all the time, and I grow food. Plant just need water, body folio, right place, right amount. So, and plant adapt to the environment. That's how we adapt to environment. That's what living organisms do. They adapt to the environment. So sometimes you have all kind of theorists and people have with all the PhDs. They're not putting the work, but they got the theory. But science ain't always getting the same result all the time, because every day the environment changes. So you got to put in the work, and that's what experiment is about. Plants adapt. If no crop was supposed to survive down there, no avocado, no mango, no this, no that. Me hear all the stories, me everything, but it's still there. You see? All right.
That's why I also highlight the need for the seed bank as well, because to strengthen the point that you're making as well, when you do get the seeds now from those plants that have already adapted to that environment, yes, when you're supposed to replant them, you're going to be getting seeds that are more adaptable to the environment, to the pests and the bugs and all that, and even more resistant to some extent. And so there's a method to the madness. I'm just trying to point out that there's a method to the madness. First, we try to store the seeds, right? So find ways of trying to save as much as you can. And then eventually after those that you have, and then I also spoke to other means of whether it's grafting and or ear layering, which is another method of reproduction of the plants, of propagation of the plants, that you still could be on your way in terms of achieving that objective, and it might be even a quicker way. because whereas in some plants, when from seed you might have to wait 4 or 5 years for fruit, with ear layering propagation methods, you in less than a year or the same year, depending on how and what stage you would have done the process. So we have to really seriously take into consideration these things, because also of the things that I mentioned in terms of the seed genification, genetically modifying the seeds, and in some cases some of the plants, and the effects that have not just on the plant but also on you as humans. Also, some of these genetically modified plants, they have been modified to the strength where when they do come in contact with the original plants, instead the original plants change them, they change the genetics of the original plants that you have. So you kind of got to be careful of where you plant them in proximity of other crops that you have. Otherwise, you could have long-term problems down the road. And these are things that are not necessarily discussed a lot, but it is part of our mission to bring these things and seek to educate and seek to help you to also go and do research for yourselves. Like we said, you don't have to take it from us. You can, go and do some further research for yourself.
Well, right now, I just want to encourage farmers, those with their animals, keep their animals hydrated, make sure they have water close to them. They have some areas that is shaded at the same time. Otherwise, dehydration will take place. Even farmers themselves have to make sure they're hydrated, have water when they're out in the field. Long sleeve shirt, a broad hat, keep off the sun, and wear dark shades at the same time from the glare of the sun and the dust. But on watering of crops, don't try to be overwatering the crop. You give the crop the water that is needed. Even if you water 3 times a day, 4 times a day, you just give it enough water for the time frame. Because the place is windy. Make sure you mulch, and the same and this is a good time to start cleaning up the banana trees too, the dry leaves, and put the dry leaves around the root zone at the same time to keep in some of that moisture. And this is good. Where you see, Yahsonn, my technique, I don't spray and use those herbicides, and I use my weed whacker. So now the place is dry, I still have grass where guys who have animals can come and get the grass. And at the same time, my moisture still retain around the root zone. So my farm is just like a green oasis. Apart from seeing the dry leaves of the banana trees, that ain't aesthetics wise, but that don't affect the fruit size of the banana. So I still don't have to water those trees, but I'm still planting. I still have harvesting tomatoes. I have tomatoes flowering. I have papaya. I always have banana. If you always want green banana, I write banana. I write planting, green planting. Man says last up, I always have those fruits. I always have tanya. I always have cassavas and star fruit and stuff like that, along with what you don't see ask for. So the techniques of what, and that's why it's important to grow a lot of fruit trees, a lot of sugar apples, a lot of guavas, a lot of mangoes, a lot of bananas. Can you see, when it comes to food security, my uncle Manza always tell me as a youth, if you ain't planting banana, planting and cassava and tanya and those things, you ain't serious about food security. And the top 20th food in the world, the top 10 5, and number one is banana slash plantain. When you come down, you're gonna be cassava, tanya, dashi, and edo. Breadfruit gonna be number 5. Those top 10 things that we grew up at that we call poor people food is what people eat throughout the world, because these food are complex carbs, and we're not pushing these types of food, yam and all these things. We are serious about importing food. In no way. When I see them and boat come here and people go down and buy boat, I embarrassed that we are buying food. All right. Is the other day a gentleman came in the shop. I don't know him, but the truck pull up, a blue truck, and had on some stuff like that. And he came in to buy water and some other stuff. And he said, And he started mentioning with my uncle used to buy stuff from him and stuff like that. So say, okay, cool. You understand? So well, everything that is inside here is grown in the back of the farm. He said, really? He said, well, no man. He said, all these bananas, everything here is local? I said, yeah. He said, you're a real farmer, man. I said, why would you say that? He said, everything in here is local. I said, yeah. So well, he said, well, I said, well, he'd have bringing food. So I said, well, if you want bananas and planting to buy, same way I can sell a wholesale. He said, well, definitely I come back and check for you. But I realize now he's the guy who a lot of the guys are bringing stuff from Dominica to buy stuff from. You see what I mean? So how we have come to that point. This thing don't make no sense, Virgin. They don't have better soil than us, you know. But they get the support from come. You went dance practice. All right. So bye bye. Okay. They can't see you. You're something else. All right, this, you know. Yes. She went dance practice. So coming up, I have to talk about this dance thing. All right, see you. All right. All right. Shut in the door. All right. So sorry about that. My dancing partner come pick
No
me up.
man, no need to be sorry, man. Yeah, man.
Little
Let the
right,
children
so.
them embrace the platform and you know what I mean, face the
Yes, sir.
public and all that. That's good that she's open to that too, you know. So yeah, man, enough respect. Go
Yeah,
on.
of course. Yes. So food security, yes, and agriculture, farmers, if it's wanting to speak to them, anyone who have come on the platform, what is an agro processor, fisher folk, resources. Every other business get this. Whether it's a contractor, whether it's one in business, whatever, rent a cars, but when it comes to agriculture, you get the hardest fight. Even poultry alone, you're gonna need water. When it comes to agriculture, you're gonna need water. Even if you're going to go into agro processing, you're gonna need water. So why are not the agriculture ministers and the premier and them is not putting make sure proper budget is put in place? These are times where you can tell the Canwis was on the radio, Minister Canwis, and he's speaking about encouraging people to use less water and then you don't tell you wash your car less and water your land less and do all these things less. So you tell me plant less too, water the crop less, in a sense. You can time, but if you don't have drip system and timers and doing things efficiently and stuff like that, it's not gonna work. You see what I mean? These things not gonna work. You don't need nobody with an engineering degree to tell you these things. It's not gonna work. I do all the different systems and so what water.
But Bankie,
Don't
as you
need it.
mentioned,
Yes.
I don't think a lot of these people who are at the helm factor in agriculture in the water discussion. I think
No?
mostly when they think
Really?
of water, yeah, because in most cases they're scrabbling to meet the requirements for home consumption. And so their focus is to at least make sure that water is not turned off in people's community.
Watch
So
here.
agriculture gets,
Agriculture industry use the most water in St. Kitts and Nevis, you
hold
know?
on, Banky,
So they need
hold
to
on,
factor how
Banky,
much water agriculture use. Cause
hold
then they
on,
make no
Banky.
sense what they do.
Me, you supposed to know that, you know, me, you supposed to know because we are
Well,
farmers.
and
So
them don't know
I'm
that?
telling you. No,
And them know
because watch
that?
here. The
Jin.
reality is, on St. Kitts,
No?
majority of the farmers are still rain fed, you know. Majority of the farmers still depend on rainfall for farming. And that
Yeah,
is
but
one of
if you
the
have
reasons why you
50
would find,
farmers, if you
uh-huh,
have 50 farmers that use tap into the source, you know what the water them use virgin. How much one
mm,
farm gonna use? So
mm.
them not engineer then. They need to hire me. They need to hire the farmers them to show them what them they say. They're not ready yet. Virgin, them not ready
Well,
yet.
them man are focus
The
on
water is
water
being
for the
used in
consumption of for homes and hotels and them things. Them man not study about water for no farming.
I hear him say something, right? And make an example and say, people going to say, well, if 20, the dam, them the waste our leak and stuff like that. So he said, well, if say there's 50 dams and them a leak and they probably leak 1,000 gallon each a day or whatever, then he make it so, well, there's 20 houses and each of them leak a gallon a day, 20,000 gallon to the dam and them. But you not talk about how much just to farm, to 5 acre farm. Go to that water to water trade them. How much you gonna use? He no realize the part there. Just to fill up the drip line and them. And water out the whole farm. The amount of water you gonna use. These guys ain't as smart as you think.
No, they're
You
not.
see?
It's not that they're not smart.
The,
It's just that they're not thinking
it's,
about those things. That is not a priority on their list.
you're using water. 4 seasons using water for you understand, they recycle the water on the golf course and stuff like that. But farming use as much water as 4 seasons and them. That's what farming does when you add it up.
Yeah, me, you know that, but that is not a priority for the
Are you
government.
Yahsonn, we are using water. The point is to save as much water So it means that put the agriculture sector on a different brackish water, so that potable water would not be. So if you're using X amount millions of gallons in water a month time, that water will not be go towards other development, housing development, schools, restaurants, whatever. This is the whole point, So this is how you save, virgin. These are simple mathematics. It take me to come
Okay.
and tell them these things.
Well, hold on,
So then I
hold
say
on.
this.
Oh, so okay, hold on. You said when you were there, right? When you were there with them and you were at Indian Castle, you pointed out that to the ministers and the PS and all who were there then, right? That's what you said, right?
Everything was emotional already. The pump
Yeah, but
design, I
you
spoke to
point
the young man.
not just, no me talking just for the Indian Castle project, but you that same point that we should
Uh-huh.
focus on more getting water that is not potable, getting access to the kind of water so that farmers could have water without affecting the main water potable water
Of
source.
course.
You
Of
just share
course.
that.
Of
Okay,
course.
you have left how long now? About 2 years, 3 years?
December will make 3 years.
How much efforts have been made to take on your idea, to take your idea on board, to focus on getting that non-potable water onto farmers so that we could really address this major problem that we are saying that we know that we need? Because if we're going to meet this 25 by 25
Right.
plus 5 agenda, and
Each
even more than
there are
that.
3 wells. There are 3 dams at the top of fountain that was there since in the 80s. 1 million gallon each. Up there full of water, got in fish too. Tilapia, something up inside there. Them those dog for kids with farmers. The government use the pipe. Let me say it's alleged. Caraman, my uncle tell me. Government use the pipe on the water project and so they're gonna bring them back, then they back the pipe up to now. So the project so the water come out the pipe up to now, the dam don't let us down with millions of gallons of water down, 3 million gallons of water. You see me to the so I'm just trying to show you all in case the area the water table is supposed to high, those areas should have shallow wells that can use on the farm. If you drill on one farm and drill on the farm where I'm at and they get water, water can distribute from that farm to other the area, stuff like that. That is how you're about doing things, my virgin. You don't have to drill 10 well. You just have to find which one is the best area to drill and drill a shallow well and that water distribute. And you have brackish water. We have ponds around here, which means the water have to come from somewhere. You see? But we just not care about, we're not serious about food. We're not serious about food, virgin. How you gonna do a pepper project? Where you get food, where you get water from? Where you get water from? You want to plant fruit trees. Not so these things that work. These things are tangible, and if you do things in a commercial way, you have to do it in the right way, which means you have to have drip systems and stuff like that. We can do things in an efficient way and stuff like that. And you must employ people. You can't get anybody to work with you because the government taking on all the pep workers and then for themselves and for other big businesses. And we're importing our food. So what's going to happen to us? Because remember, the
Yeah,
food that is
yeah.
grown here is different to the food grown in other places because remember, our body is adapted to to the soil. Remember, we are natives from here, the water, everything, we body adapt to it. The microbes in the soil is also the gut microbes that we have here. So the food that we're eating coming in is not doing us more health than those that we eat here. So it's our better to eat that what is grown here. They're coming from the
I'm back.
soil because we're part. That is
I
how,
was saying back
if
to
you look
my
at it
seed
health
bank, back
wise.
to my seed bank point. Back to my seed bank point. And so you see, it all ties back in. But Banky, you made a point there earlier when you said something about the government taking up all of the pep workers and like people in the private sector is unable to benefit from some of those workers and so forth. And that brought me into a point on the cannabis side of things, where on the business side, a person who have a business place and would want to have a 420 lounge or have a space where you could have a 420 friendly smoking area, if you are to go to the ministry to get such a license, you're unable to. But however, the government has found over the past 2 years to grant a temporary license to themselves in the form of the only person or entity that would have gotten a temporary license for a 420 zone is the music festival. And this year, I guess they're going to have one again. So you see where the government is just looking out for themselves in that sense, because they're taking all the pep workers that should benefit the small business people who really need that boost in some cases. And then here is it that you can't.
Well, remember, some small businesses get it, but it's just that enough is not getting the help that is needed. A lot of big businesses is
And the
getting, the
reason the
rotation is
reason
not
why they're
there.
not getting it,
I know
and the reason
farmers
why they're
come
not getting it is
and
because,
complaining to me.
as you said, the government have most of them. I have a good bit of them. So the point still
It's
is,
just not it's just not balanced, Yahsonn. It's not balanced, guys. You have a farmer trying to seek work, your worker. When you get the worker, you have to go to too much of channels and this and that, because the main office who to take on the people is in sync it. Navies can't say, how you the workers have to go to sync it, Everything application have to go to sync it. That is how this thing work, You see what I mean? Yeah, this is how we work in that, like, all Navy's office go hire you. No. The paper have to send over to sync it, brethren. So we're not gonna negotiate things. Negotiate. Navy separate from syndicate in a sense in certain things and the kind of vibes. It's just like development bank and all the thing. They are not development bank, but yeah, development bank. That's what the name. That the manager you can't make no more than a sign off and give a loan than $25,000. Otherwise, if you answer to syndicate and the kind of vibes. Them madness. What are you talking about? So Navy's manager can give you 100,000 a loan or 250,000 a loan. You have to ask. You see what I mean? This kind of mentality where Navy's have to answer to sing it and kind of dumb vibes and it's just true. It's sick and stuff like that. And they go every aspect of it. Because if you're putting things in place where you get into whatever and something gonna benefit St. Kitts farmers, because at the end of the day is a federal government, St. Kitts and a local government, Whatever benefits St. Kitts should benefit Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis. Because St. Kitts does not have a local government. So when it's agriculture and Nevis, so Nevis should benefit twice in every aspect of everything. That's the reality. Because even though Nevis is responsible for certain things, the federal government is still responsible for Nevis in every aspect of everything when you look at it. When you think about
but
it in a
it is
systematic
something
way.
that I'm glad that you point out that, because it is something that
It
sometimes
is.
people miss. A lot of people miss that. I
It's
sometimes
what
find
it
myself
is.
having to explain that a lot, but that's the reality. St. Kitts does not have a government. They don't have a government. The government is the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. So there's a St. Kitts and Nevis
Yes.
federal government, and then the crafters of the Constitution then sought to create that space for Nevis to have a Nevis Island government, and a clause also, if they so desire to separate from St. Kitts and to be a sovereign island, the path in which they should take to do so. And that in itself is quite an interesting story, Bankie, because I would have been in recent times doing some research on that topic, because I find from time to time it comes up, and it kind of reminds me of the Maurice Bishop saga in Grenada. Like, I've been to Grenada at an earlier point in my life trying to find out more about that, and trying to do some investigative research on my own and so on. And I find it's like a topic that a lot of the people just don't want to have to hash up or like bring up or deal with. And I find like that is something like that. Secession is something like like people don't necessarily want to talk about it. So I went and do some research for myself, and I found some very interesting things, in terms of the history of it and how far back, it went, and the struggles between St. Kitts and Nevis and Anguilla, because it was one St. Kitts and Nevis and Anguilla. And then Anguilla would have had a revolt at a certain point and opted to go back under the monarchy rule, and St. Kitts and Nevis continued to be with each other based on the constitutional agreement when they went independence and so on. And that's what they opted to deal with, knowing that, okay, Nevis was seeking for its independence, but then was forced, I guess, based on how it was described in the history that I got it, that they were forced into a relationship with St. Kitts and Nevis. And some may get offended when you use the word force, But based on the history, it was said that prior to that putting them together, Nevis would have had a secession, but it was not recognized. They would have had a petition or whatever it is for secession, and they got, I think, a 99%, but it was not recognized for whatever reason at that point. And then they were forced into this, and then I guess out of that they decided, okay, all right, we're gonna do this, but we will have our own government, and we will have that clause that if we so desire, then we could have a referendum. And interesting topic. But one of these days, I guess that's something that we could look at on a topics discussion and bring some other persons to address it. But I find it something interesting.
I can't entertain secession talk when you cannot explain things to people how this thing gonna work. I don't. You see what I mean? If you're gonna speak things about to people, you must understand how the two islands would function, what will do what. You can't even talk about the sharing revenue between St. Kitts Nevis now, and they want to bring up secession talk, and nobody can explain to any one of us how this thing would work. That's why we don't entertain it, This more time, because nobody will tell you how the relationship would continue to function. But let me continue with this cannabis. You're gonna need water again. So anywhere we go when it comes to agriculture, water is something that is needed. You can't overlook water. And you want to tell me the minister them and the leader of the country know water is important. The amount of money have been wasted around here and that have been disappeared around here. And we're still importing over $200 million worth of food. We've never import water. Eh? Even water we import. That's just to show you. You see? Because we're not serious, virgin. And then we want to bring in 10,000 families. And then we want to do same community in St. Kitts over in White Gates. How much do we want to bring in now? 30,000 families. You don't say 25,000 families. You understand? It's criminal act. But you still agree to bring in more development. You know, see, it's either our brain cells are not receiving the information right, or we've been polarized or hypnotized. Because we cheer on these things. And then we ask, me and you ask the question, they say we ask hard question. And we tough. Me not mind. And they must repeat these things there, and then go back and repeat it. And when we ask them these things, they say we ask, me not understand what the hard question me. You can't make up these things a virgin. Eh? The gas is nearly $20. These, me hear man say, the diesel are $26 or whatever. And me hear whole heap of talking over bread rice from $2 to $3. Really? Really? When people can't even now get no water? Farmers ask a cry about monkey, probably what with monkey. Me say, but I ain't work in the government. I ask me about monkey. Me do what me have to do. Me stay on my farm. There's a monkey program have been shut down for years with no explanation, nothing. So how are we gonna increase our food security? Food security is about growing lettuce, and tomato. Them that is small part. The food security is about growing ground food. Can you not survive off lettuce and tomato? You don't want banana to make flour. You want cassava to make flour, breadfruit to make flour. Then them thing is complex carbon, give you bread and different pastries and different stuff and make a soup and whatever you can think about. Because that's what flour does. Lettuce, anything that will help you. You see what I mean? Hydroponic system and greenhouse algae still got water. So you mean we still need to drill shallow wells that have brackish water that is good enough for farming and stuff like that, but not good for potable. Because the water source is there. The water source is there. So what is the problem? Is we accepting these things because you see what the experiment done me one way in the car, the world gonna shut down again, Right now, Right now again, and then they're gonna stick just like how it is. It not gonna come back. It's gonna remain just like how it is. And since someone come out the house, they're gonna accept the fact we don't give you a living wage. So then forget about paying any bills. You know, if you pay the bills, stop in your house. So you right now you're locked down in a real jail now. Your house to a jail, so you can't come out your yard. Okay, this is the kind of life most people want that they'll have to accept, because this is what we're gonna move into. Don't cut out the cash, can you can't eat your money. So food. No, this is the reality. So if they think this thing never happen, because I've traveled across the world and I got money in my pocket and the whole place is cashless. Cashless. So if I didn't have my national my card, I could not buy nothing. The people who have money and they have to pay for the overweight, then actually it's just cashless system. Everything you want to eat, not even nobody working in the place. You just go in there and talk about your one and you swipe. Somebody also use a phone. So I don't know, we're living in the future. But some of us still not really grasp on it and realize it's a digital world. The central bank been using advertising D-cash, 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 digital cash is what it is. They're gonna kill the dollar there. So the world will become a mystical place to maneuver and survive, because it means they can shut down your account and freeze. So every time you make a transfer, whatever you do, you be monitored. You can't hide it. So they don't think the world is a nice place. How you see it is that what you see, it's just an illusion. And these things when I see long time. And it's just manifesting right now. So nothing surprises me. That's why the only thing I have is a WhatsApp. I ain't got no Facebook. So me not going up on Facebook. The technical team do it all and vibes there. I ain't gonna think I can't be caught up in the kind of is not real, because the money time what you do. What you do. Then if they're gonna hire you, you're building a profile on yourself every time you put out there. That's what it's all about. But people use it as entertainment. It's not just entertainment. Is analyzing what kind of person you are, what you get, everything you're commenting and stuff like that. I do these shows, that's it. But the technical team do the posting or whatever, I do a video and that's it. Because I never change how I live. Because the system ain't changed. We deal with the ancient system that enslaved my ancestors, and then my own people now want to enslave me through politics. That's what they're doing, enslaving us. They even say that smart. They never want to know to feed their own self. Agriculture has one of the lowest budget. You see them destroy 40 acres of food, and we sit down here and we accept it, isn't it? But St. Kitts Nevis, all of us accepting the destroying of 40 acres of food that have benefited both islands. So that tells a lot about who we are as a people. Tells a lot about us. We don't see us about farming. We have made it. We see farming as hard work. But they're hard work, not take on that the food won't come. We want to push, we can't. This is who we have become. And look nice, but then the food that we're eating is of no standard. So how can we be that wise when we know the food that is grown here is better compared to anybody other food? We knows that. We speak about it. So how we are doing any better? Come on. Huh? We bright, we are scholars, virgin, but we import food that are poison. We don't waiting, we're gonna get all these kind of illnesses. Yahsonn, we have a call coming in here. We take this call. Yeah. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Everything Agriculture Show.
Hi, good evening, and good evening to you, Yahsonn.
Yeah, where's your voice? Look a bit, caller. Good evening to you.
Hi, you hear me better now?
Yeah, a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah. So good evening to you, Bankie, and good evening to you, Yahsonn.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, evening.
Yes.
This is Native Mills, the CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. I just wanted to call in tonight, just touch on the topic, cannabis, and basically just give the listening audience an update on what is going on in the medicinal cannabis industry.
Give thanks.
Although it had sound like radio silence for a couple months, I do want to inform things are still happening. We do have quite a few people who have turned in, a couple of people have turned in completed medicinal cannabis applications for licenses, multiple licenses, mainly the cultivator's license and a few export and dispensary license as well. We have some more persons that are very close to crossing that line as well, to being 100% complete. So with that being said, we could very well see at least some provisional license being issued shortly. However, I would say because of the climate, the arrest of Yahsonn, Bankie, and others, we thought that it would be responsible of us to, take it slower and basically try to galvanize the rights of our citizens. So in the meantime, the past few months, I've been working closely with the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs because they have jurisdictional responsibility for recognizing Rastafari rights and also the freedom of conscience. So since working with them, we have been able to, formalize that process. The application forms are available at my office, the MCA, and the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs, where persons can register for a freedom of conscience license, as well as Rasta groups can register themselves and register the places of assembly where they could deal with cannabis, grow it, process it, use it however they please for their sacrament. So I just want the general public to know that these things are available now, and you can register at the MCA, the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs. Besides that, we're also hoping to roll out some trainings pretty soon. The first area would be for the traditional cultivators, persons who have been, in this space, although it may have been in the black market, just, for their hobbies. We want to get those persons trained and familiarized with the standards that we will require in the medicinal cannabis space. So we're hoping to have our consultant, Dr. Marshall Emmanuel, back either the ending of this month or early next month to start to roll out some of those trainings. And then the intention is, if you go through our training, the traditional cultivator training, and you successfully pass, basically, you gain an understanding, you know what it is we're requiring of you in this industry, and you are committed to following the rules, you can enroll into a program where you will grow cannabis to our standards, and then we will purchase it off of you. But a little later, we'll advertise the program a bit more and come to the general public to let everyone know when they can sign up, where, and everything associated with it. But I just wanted to call in and basically just update you all and the general public. And if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer while I'm here.
All right, we greatly appreciate you calling in and giving an update. I know the general public was kind of asking me a lot of questions, what's going on and stuff like that, since everything happened, as I said, around my case and situation and stuff like that. So we really appreciate the listening audience. We're definitely glad to hear you calling in and giving an update. So, Yahsonn, any question for Mr. Mills?
At this point, I would just say that I'm happy for the update and hope that he would do this on a regular. Come forward and bring more information to the public. In relation to the rollout, he said that some persons would have made applications and so on. In recent times, have there been any licenses issued, and how much of the freedom of conscience side of it? I know the Rastafari side is still kind of on a hold to some extent, but the freedom of conscience side with the 5 trees and the 56 grams, how open and ready are those licenses at this point?
Yes, so we have already issued 9 freedom of conscience license, and if my memory is right, already registered I think about 20 places of assembly for Rastafari.
Okay. Well, we greatly appreciate that information. Yes, and so, the process is ongoing, and stuff like that. Slow but ongoing. So at least it was better than zero. So we are always grateful. But
Yeah, slowly but surely, and I will. You will start to see much more traffic from us in the public. But as I said, we just thought it was responsible of us to slow down so that we don't give anyone any false impressions and trap them really, you know. So now that we have worked out everything as far as like galvanizing the rights and making sure that that process is available so people can actually do what they need to do.
yes.
No, we're going to push it much more.
But before you go, I just want to verify something again because I know a lot of people listen to the show. And when it comes to another ecclesiastic, they have their ad going on where Rastafari group can register, may register. Where does that line fit? Because the police ain't got to understand is just like the prime minister when he's speaking about the situation where they have those non-CARICOM nationals coming here. Is saying the word that he used, may ship them here, which is that I must come here. He chose to accept them. Because the word he used was may. So why they use the same word when it comes to the Rastafari group? It mean that it may is must, so he don't have to take them. He chose to take the Caribbean nationals. So the same thing with this when it comes to the cannabis. You may register.
Yes, absolutely. In the law, it says may. He uses the word a person may register.
Yes.
However, we see that the police is acting on that is saying shall. They interpreted it as it says shall, or that you should, whichever one. They're not allowing it to be optional. So as the MCA thought it would be responsible of us just to make sure that thing is available. So at least we could point you in the right direction and prevent anybody from having any run-ins with the law.
All right. We appreciate the call, and we'll continue the discussion a little bit when to get off here. But enough respect. Keep up the good works, Yahsonn.
Yeah, man. That's all.
Yes. So yes, I want to thank Mr. Mills for calling in and giving an update when it comes to what's going on when it comes to the medical cannabis industry in St. Kitts and Nevis. As I realize, and the Nevis end, ain't nothing really going on when it comes to the Minister of Agriculture. Don't speak on cannabis neither. There's the director or the PS. I don't know who speak on cannabis feel like is the premier himself, but outside of that, Nevis is just waiting. This is what St. Kitts doing. If St. Kitts ain't doing nothing, Nevis ain't doing nothing. But the citizens in Nevis, have been getting harassed by the police, and their human rights being violated. And the premier will speak and say, well, yeah, he for cannabis and he for this, but at the same time, your citizens is being harassed. Where on the other side in St. Kitts, where you'll hear the consultant in a town hall meeting, almost a meeting with the town hall, yes, with the public, said the commander in chief in St. Kitts said the police even to do. And you hear me myself telling the police when they were on my farm, they ain't got nothing to do. You come to my farm to harass me about cannabis when I'm educating people about cannabis at a registered event government. Our governments, because one was still have to be for the cannabis competition in St. Kitts. And you're still on the farm, I beg me for Tanya and banana. Boy, you are lock me up. You see some madness comedy show. And that's why I want to keep encouraging the people of St. Kitts Nevis to work hard, these police officers. Because the general public have no confidence in the police, especially those in Nevis. Those the whole team together, no confident. Because you violate is today a man telling me a police whatever pull over a man telling about the tint and whatever, and with that the man slap down the man. This is how these rogue police are going on. You see what I mean? Is last week someone told me in a business place working for a gentleman and police come in the place. He take up the phone, he call the owner of the place. They take with the girl the phone out the young lady hand. You see what I mean? These are the things how these police have been using, enforcing their will on the people's rights when they're there to protect and serve. That's why you see I call for that where the police in St. Kitts and Nevis don't have no gun and they walk up and down. They should be walking through the community, building a relationship with the people, not interrogating them. You see, we don't have the youth man never fighting against each other, killing each other, you know. So now people can go out and be themselves. There was a time where they could not go out. The place is locked down early. That them times is gone. So now we are the problem. They go down on the beach, police don't have a ticket to give people. I mean, come on, really? Rum are the problem. Rum are the problem in the Virgin. Rum, alcohol destroy everything in your body. Everything. And you can go and buy any amount of beer you want. Any amount, walk into any liquor store, anything about any amount of rum you want. And you have to put on a lock on it. Your children can go open up your place and drink out the rum and you give them some more in the drink. And you think it is cool. This is how we have been conditioned. Because I see it around me. I see it. They give them little children beer to drink and laugh and Guinness and whatever. But if you get a bus split, they say you're the devil. We have been indoctrinated to embrace alcohol drinking. All these fetes is just pure rum. I watch it. I was at the cultural event. The biggest thing in there, the bar. They're going to make sure keep domino around the bar so you can drink more beer and drink more rum. It's targeted by these things. These are the reality. We knows that. They give to the fet them some big drug look like a bucket full of with some kind of punch with rum inside there. And we embrace these things. That's why a lot of these events have so much rape and all these things going on. These are the reality. But we don't speak on this reality. Then we come on these shows and some radio shows and want to talk about some drug, this and whatever, and talk about weed. Them talk about the rape and all this nonsense going on with the alcohol. These things they need to talk about with all these fetes. Music festival getting how much alcohol, thousands of gallons of alcohol going to consume in that place. They not talk about these things. They know. They knows. They destroy every part of them. Alcohol full of cholesterol in a virgin. So you don't become diabetic and hypertensive. So let them come do a show about alcohol. Alcohol need to have a show. Weekly, the destruction of alcohol have done to our society. The amount of abuse and rape and this and that and one thing. People get knocked down and killed and all kind of something. They don't want to talk about that, but they want to talk about weed. Weed not the problem. Me know weed not the problem. They want to use something to blame because it's just a target. Number one is alcohol and number two tobacco. And them got it as number one and number two, not me, no. Number one and number two, but they not talk about number one and number two. They want to talk about number three.
Well, Bankie, you know, one of the things that I vouch to do as we continue this educational series is I vow to, on every program that I do, read a little excerpt out of the Sankofa case, because I think that for some reason, when I reason with, even as I had the conversation with Inspector Carty this afternoon, I tend to sense that even those high-ranking officials are not fully aware of some of the things that have been argued in this case. Is either that or they're choosing to ignore it. Even the President, Prime Minister, and the President AG, some of the arguments that are being presented were argued and were pushed aside because Judge Ventos told them that he heard what they're saying. However, the case that he was addressing was a very narrow one, and he opted to focus on the narrow area that he was dealing with. So I'm going to, for the next minute or two, Bankie, if you allow me, just read
let me take a break, Yahsonn. Let me take a break and we will come back to that.
Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah.
It's everything agriculture with Bankie and Yahsonn. Talking food.
When comfort, class, and reliability matter, choose the ride that delivers more. Imperial Rides Transportation Services, where every journey is treated like royalty. From airport transfers, private events, shopping trips, island tours, and executive travel, Imperial Rides moves you in style, clean, comfortable, on time, every time. Book your premium taxi or tour service today. Call or WhatsApp 869-665-8459 or email elandflavas@gmail.com. Imperial Rides Transportation Services. Your journey, our priority.
At Shabazz Organics, we believe real people deserve real food. So we're bringing you to Mansa's Last Stop, a farm where food barriers are removed and legacy is sustained. We believe there's power in picking, so we allow you to decide what leaves the farm and enters your kitchen organically.
Beat the summer heat, come and get your carambola, star fruit, make very nice drink. You can come pick them yourself. All the trees them full of vitamin C, antioxidant, build up your immune system. Monster Last Stop, a whole shopping bag only $10. Half a shopping bag you pay $5. If you get $2, you must get some. Come get your carambola. Don't want to go to waste. Let's go, people.
It's everything agriculture with Bankie and Yahsonn. Talking food security, cannabis, farming, livestock, fisheries, and everything agriculture. Every week on Real Entertainment Network. Hey, hey. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally, feed the whole community. Everything agriculture, building for the future. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Too much food coming overseas. One disruption bring the country to knees. Hey. One storm, one war, one delay. Supermarket shelves empty same day. So we have to plant more yam and dasheen. Fresh vegetables keep the people clean. Raise more goat, more chicken too. Local farming must come true. Every backyard can grow something. Pepper, thyme and pumpkin. Teach the youth we love the soil. Agriculture reward the tile. If the import stop tomorrow, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. If the import stop tomorrow, hey, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally, feed the world.
Yes, I want to talk a little bit about this dance coming up down by the group. This coming up on Father's Day, the 20th and 21st, the Saturday and the Sunday. This will be some fun where the dad and daughters will be having a dance. So I encourage those who want to have on the Sunday night. I know how this dance go, but I definitely going to be part of this dance. I have practicing tomorrow with my daughter. Been practicing for the last couple of weeks, but some of the moves, nobody can do these moves because these are girly moves. I can't do girls, so this is it's a comedy show. So I'm not looking forward, I know, for this kind of dance, yeah. But what you're gonna do, you gotta do what you have to do for the young ones and them. So just want to big up the lady in charge of Leap. Want to dance? I want to dance. Then certain type of dance. So certain moves are left for females only. So I don't know how certain man could do certain kind of dance and stuff like that. Yeah. So want to big up the Leap Dance Theater coming up in June 8th and 21st. That will be a Saturday and a Sunday at the Knee Park. So I got dance practice tomorrow. So technician, back to the show. And welcome back to the Everything Agriculture Show. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Yahsonn, as you realize, we're talking about cannabis, water is key. So just want to big up the young lady with her production Leap. I think she's from St. Kitts. My little girl go to a dance production and stuff like that. So she definitely, so she just dragging the dads and them. So I'm been practicing for the last couple of weeks. I know how they're going to work out at the night of the event, but We just have it as a comedy. Can nobody could say, well, can nobody could do the moves on them. That's just that's the most I can say. You just, yeah, I mean, that's the most I can say. If you want to see the production, you come on out at the knee pack, and the 21st, you're gonna be tonight, Saturday and Sunday. But I guess the dads will be dancing the Sunday night. So whichever, if you want to see the dads and them dancing, I'll be there. But I don't have to watch me. You know, I get enough comedy show here at Tuesday night and Thursday night. So just come out and support as usual and stuff like that. So Yahsonn, we are back. As I'm saying, if you're gonna be serious about food, whatever it is, we're gonna have to get a water source because the time gonna come where, as the song says, agriculture is priority. It is our priority. That's just, we cannot avoid that. It's not just about talking, it's gonna be tangible. So if we're gonna talk about cannabis, we need to talk about water too. And we can't plant weed and not plant food. So which one are gonna be? If we're gonna put issue license, it mean whoever gonna plant in herb must be able to plant an amount of food. Cause then where gonna get your food from? The same import bill gonna continue to go up. So we gotta have to sit and discuss things properly, not just your plant weed, but you're not planting no food help bring on the same import bill to save your own self. Cause the food is to save you too and your family and your loved ones. It's not just about planting weed. That's why me personally, I'm not interested in this medical cannabis industry thing. Who want license, get license. I'm fighting for those who want the license. But I personally have no interest in going weed to ship outside to nobody. I'm interested in going food. I'm going me herb for me and my family, but me
Yeah,
not
you
go
see,
herb.
Bankie,
So who want
you
that? I'm
see,
promoting for them. Everybody have the right to do what they want to do. But for me personally, but before we get into these things, Yahsonn, we can get in some of the comments and then go into the part we're going with Sankofa.
um, okay, let me see. Okay, the comments. Hi, greetings, King. Good night, bro. Oliver Libert, Ali, and the honey. All right, people, if you're looking for 100% pure honey and you're on St. Kitts, go on up to St. Peter's, ask for Oliver Libert, the honey man, and get yourself a bottle of local SK honey. Yeah, so he says, greetings, bro. I'm here. Lynetta Daniel says, good evening, everyone. Deslin Sargent says, talk truth, Bankie. Cuz Kush says, I'm not too sure who Mr. Mills is. Okay, Mr. Mills. Do you believe he is a policeman? Sorry. Do you believe he's a politician who has taken the opportunity to call to give the nation an update, an explanation as to why and what is happening? They're choosing to ignore it, Desmond Sergeant says. So, Kush, just for a little bit of clarity, Mr. Mills, who called in, is Mr. Nadif Mills, who is the CEO of the Medical Cannabis Authority. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask him because he spoke to MCA, and I don't think a lot of people know what the acronym MCA stands for. But the MCA he was referring to is the Medical Cannabis Authority. That's the Medical Cannabis Authority on St. Kitts. The office is located on, well, by I don't know, St. Kitts streets like that, but I'll just say it's a street at Boozies, opposite Boozies. That place where Keynes had his auto rental section over there. That's where the office is, and you can't miss it. There's a big medical cannabis sign on the door and all that, so you can't miss it. But you can always go over and check him and follow up and get some more information. But he is the CEO of the Medical Authority. What he was giving us an update on is where they are right now in terms of the rollout with some of the licenses so far, and his connection and affiliation now with the Ministry of Ecclesiastic Affairs, whose ministry is charged with dealing with the Rastafari sacramental licenses, the freedom of conscience for those who want to get their 5 trees and their license to carry 56 grams on your person, The licenses are available. I think I read, and I was supposed to ask him about that to clarify, and he can call in to do that if he's still listening. But I think there is a $100 application fee, and it is said that the fee is not necessarily for the license, but for the processing of the ID card, which you're going to be presented with after being successful. But I think I saw something that claimed that there is a waiver on the payment, so you can get the license. But I think there's a waiver. I need to, I guess if you're listening, Nadif, you can call back in to clarify that a bit. But I think I saw that. If not, then you can explain that a bit. But that is part of the difficulty, Bankie. I find that the government opted to run with the public side of things and the medical side of things and the business side of things and the sales side of things. Whereas the Sankofa case, as Judge Ventos would have highlighted, was a narrow case which dealt with the private side of things. And that is what I think is being conflated in all of the arguments that I've been hearing about this thing. And it is so, maybe intentionally so, because out of all of the three areas that were reasoned when there was the CARICOM broader discussion and the SKN, the St. Kitts and Nevis Cannabis Commission as well, all of these were brought up. The three main areas that were discussed were medical cannabis, recreational cannabis, and religious or spiritual cannabis. However, in relation to the Sankofa case versus the Police Commissioner of St. Kitts and Nevis, in that case, you would have seen that Sankofa took the police commissioner to court in relation to his rights to be able to go and cultivate cannabis in his personal space and to make use of it in his personal space, and also based on the fact that he used it for religious purposes as well, as he practices Rastafari, and Rastafari is recognized as a religion. And even if not before, now the government has recognized it legally. And also, another thing that came out of that case was that cannabis is recognized as a sacrament. And we need to bear these two things in mind as the discussion continues, because as the discussion continues, you're going to realize that provisions are made in the Constitution to give respect for religion and religious rights. And also, if cannabis is deemed a sacrament, then it would and should be treated as all other sacraments that is pertinent to any other religion or religious organization. And these are some of the things that I think people are missing. And I guess maybe that is also why they might have put cannabis under the arguments presented by Sankofa under Ministry of Ecclesiastic Affairs. But like I mentioned earlier, I was going to get into a bit of the Sankofa case, so that we can see, I am not just saying these things when I tell you that these arguments were presented by the defendants who happen to be, so let's for a little bit of clarity as well. The three main defendants in this case was, one, the former Commissioner of Police, Ian Quealy, who is now Ambassador Ian Quealy, the present CMO, who was the CMO then, Miss Laws, and the Attorney General then, who would have been Mr. Byron. They were the defendants in this case. So when you hear the things that I'm reading speaks to the defendants, these are who they were referring to, or they are referring to in this case. And when you hear me say the claimant, I'm referring to Sankofa Maccabee, because he was the claimant in this case. And I'm going to go through from paragraph 98 here. And it says, Section 9 of the Constitution states that nothing contained in or done under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this section to the extent that the law in question makes provision that is reasonably required in the interests of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, public health. In seeking to justify pursuant to Section 9, 2A of the Constitution, the contravention of the claimant's right to privacy under Section 3 and 9 of the Constitution, the defendants again submit that the state has acceded to various international drug conventions. I have already explained that these conventions must yield to the provisions of the Constitution as the supreme law of St. Christopher and Nevis. Although cannabis possesses a health risk to some vulnerable members of the population, such as children, pregnant women, and young persons, that alone is no good reason for the blanket prohibition on the use, possession, and cultivation of cannabis by adults for personal use in private. This is what the judge is telling them. While appropriate legislation setting out the parameters of such a right will need to be put in place by the National Assembly to deal with this, the lack of a legislative framework cannot by itself lawfully justify the continued prohibition on the use, possession, and cultivation of cannabis by adults in private for their personal use. The fundamental right to privacy guaranteed by sections 3 and 9 of the Constitution is not a light switch that can be turned on and off by the state at its pleasure. This is the judge talking to them. This is what the judge telling them in terms of respecting the Constitution and what the Constitution say in relation to our rights to grow, cultivate, and use and have possession of cannabis.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
When I was actually taken to the police station, when the CEO, Mr. Mills, the gentleman who just called in, telling the arresting officers, please not to lock up Bankie. Because I'm going to embarrass the whole state and everything. And he read out the act, the Rastafari Recognition Act. This is what you're talking about there. You know what they say? Tal! That's too much. When the act tell them I could go any, how much you say? The man said unlimited amount. The man said, Tal! Comedy show. The man still go try to lock me up. The man want hear that. The man had no good. The man this we live in a system where the police officers and whoever in the society, the system and they got in their head, they don't care what on paper virgin.
Bankie, the problem with that is that they are aided and abetted by those who we elect to represent us, because they are the ones who are part of the hindrance of these things being done. Because here is it that it is them that were taken to court, and it is the government that was taken to court. It is the government that the judge made these rulings on. Yes, one may argue that, well, government changed and it wasn't these present sitting members. But the difficulty that I have is these sitting members are still trying to bring and use the same arguments that were thrown out in relation to the areas that we are speaking with. And as I was speaking to Inspector Carty earlier on today. That is one of the things that I was trying to highlight and get across to Inspector Carty, that it is one thing to speak to cannabis in public and to talk about distribution and selling it and all of that. And then there's another when you're talking about the constitutional right for an adult 18 or over in St. Kitts and Nevis to be able to grow, cultivate, and possess cannabis on their private space. And in relation to Rastafari, it's any amount. The onus is on them to then investigate and do whatever they need to do to find out, well, if I am selling or distributing or doing anything outline of that. But you shouldn't just feel that because I have access to X amount that I am going to distribute, I am going to sell. You have to prove that. You shouldn't feel that I am going to do that and then deny me my right. And this is something that I think the society needs to understand. It's not a privilege. We're not asking the police or asking the authority for this, you know. The Constitution has provided that for us. So what they're seeking to do is to restrict our constitutional rights. And that is why the other day I made a little post on Facebook asking the question, which is much easier? Is it easier to allow us to exercise our constitutional rights, or is it easier to try to deny some people of their constitutional rights, in the sense of what we're hearing in the case of the Destiny Project, where you have your constitutional rights and then they're seeking to deny you because they're saying you're going to can't vote and you're going to can't buy no land outside, when those are two constitutional rights that a citizen have. So I find that that is more challenging to try to work on than to say, well, Rastafari have all rights and every adult have a right to grow cannabis. We let them grow cannabis. Why is it that there's this fear, Bankie, that if they're supposed to free it up like that, and we're supposed to be able to exercise our rights, that everybody's going to do it? There is no evidence to justify that. Hold on, Bankie, there's no evidence to justify that. Tomato legal, pumpkin legal, pepper legal, cabbage legal, celery legal, all of these things legal. Anybody could grow them. Is everybody growing them? Isn't there still a huge demand for them? Where is the empirical evidence to suggest that if you're supposed to just free up cannabis like it is constitutionally right for us to be able to grow as much as we want on the premises, why you feel like everybody's going to do it? And why you feel like I must sell? Like you said earlier on, you ain't concerned about getting it to sell and to distribute. You just want to be able to grow cannabis and have as much as you want and use as much you want. And if your friend or your brethren come check for you and your group and you're having a gathering or whatever it is, that you could have enough to give and gift whoever. That is how we think as Rastafari. So why is it that
I have no
you
interest.
like Bankie, the same thing. Like, I mean, I question Mr. Carty one time in relation to the arguments about intent to supply. Right? I'm a farmer. We know how certain things go in terms of post-harvest. Now I got a pile of okra. And I'm going to use okra. I am going to want to store it in large bulk in an area. But I wouldn't want to have to go to the bulk every day to take out some because I want to go cook. I would want to, most homeowners would stash out some in some Ziplocs and maybe have some stack up in your fridge. You might have 50 Ziploc cars. You might have the portion that you're going to use every time you're going to cook. So you stack them out like that. Now, you're going to tell me now.
Son, these guys being wired as police.
Police come by me. Well, hold on.
As
I'm trying to figure out. If police come by me and say me got me Ziploc them stash out like that, they're going to say that what I intend to sell. That mean I was selling. And if you come and you meet some $20, you meet a scale, well, how are you going to know? Because you're talking about cannabis and you're talking about quantity. And so how are you going to know if I'm going to be smoking 2 grams a day? I got to go scale to weigh it out to measure out how much I consuming on a daily basis. So these kind of arguments to me, and these are just trying to find ways to still restrict and control something that they shouldn't be restricting and controlling.
We hear and speak about America this and America that. They need to take a drop on a plane, go to New York City and go in the Bronx and Brooklyn and you switch by how people sell weed. In New York, everybody could get a quarter pound of weed from them. 4 ounces. And the out there sell weed on the street. Normal, the same money not going to the same bank them talk about. What nonsense we are talking about to entertain. The American government got weed still on the street in all the states and them. What we here talking about? This is a conversation we have. We are talking about America. Eh? America sell weed up and down the street, normal. Normal. We have a video there, we show tape there with guy in the street. I sell weed on the table like you young sell tomato and okra. And police cross the street, weed shop cross the street. Nobody got lock up in the New York for no weed. Period. Atlanta and other places doing the same thing. Freeing up the herb. The whole America making you anybody getting locked up in America for weed? Listen to the news and tell me that. Only we're not accustomed to nothing virgin. We're not gonna work it do. We still got a phobia. A rum are the problem. Rum are the problem, not weed.
But you can't talk about the man choice drug like that, boy. You can't be coming and talking about the man choice drug like that. Rum is the man choice drug. All the festival coming up just now, rum gonna sponsor all of them there. You're crazy. Them man will show you if you touch rum right now, you shut down the man economy. You can't play with them man choice drug. And maybe that's what they see.
Even Boston, herb is legal in Boston, those states, Boston.
Why cannabis can be a competition for the man choice drug? You think the man want, I come in and got everybody making use of cannabis and getting wiser and then stop drink rum? Tal, and then the man economy shut down? Well, you got to look at this thing on a level little bad. You got to look at that on a level level.
Why is our government who fighting her want to get into to selling weed? Why would the government want to go with to get them to sell? Why would the government want to get into the weed business?
Because
and into tourism business too, because tourism want to go weed too.
You gonna let me answer you? Sure, they want to get into it because they recognize how they can make some money out of it. That is why they have opted to take up the medical cannabis side of things that Sankofa never took them to court for and run with that and try to function with that and create arguments surrounding that, because all the arguments about money and all that only come in because of the trade aspect of it. If we are going to go it privately on our property and so on, we're not concerned about that. So that wouldn't be our problem. That's a them problem. They try to include us in a them problem. We were not concerned with that, and that's what I'm trying to point out with going through the Sankofa case, because that is what Judge Ventos was trying to point out to Mr. Ian Quealy, Miss Laws, and Mr. Byron, that he hear all of those arguments, but that is not what the case that he was addressing was dealing with. The narrow case that he was dealing with was the ability for Rastafari to be able to go, use, and possess cannabis in their private space. Had nothing to do in the public and the selling and all of that. That is a whole other ball game altogether. They run with that and try to hijack the thing and bring in that with them. That's not what we're arguing. That's not what we presented. That's not what the judge highlight from the Constitution. And that's what I'm trying to point out. Constitutional, what, and Judge Ventos tell them all of these things, Bankie. Constitutional supremacy. Parliamentary law cannot override fundamental rights. Judge Ventos tell them these things. Section 2 of the Constitution establishes that the Constitution is the supreme law, and any law inconsistent with it is void to the extent of inconsistency. Judge Ventos in the Sankofa case explicitly held, I wish therefore to dispel the notion that there is any law made by Parliament that cannot be struck down for contravention of one or more of the provisions of the Constitution. Furthermore, Judge Ventos stated, the fundamental rights and freedoms of the citizens of St. Christopher and Nevis are not and can never be subject to parliamentary approval. This is Judge Ventos telling these things, Bankie. The licensing requirement under the Freedom of Conscience Cannabis Act 2023 directly contradicts this principle by making the exercise of constitutional rights contingent on parliamentary approval. So that's why we say the Rastafari Recognition Act is unconstitutional too. You understand? That the way they put it is unconstitutional because it go against what the Constitution say, and Judge Ventos highlighted that for them. Licensing requirements are unconstitutional, and that is why the Premier asked the question the other day. If you have a constitutional right, do you need to get a license to exercise your constitutional right?
Well, that's what to the police. I don't need to have. I don't have to register. Well, that is the whole point. I don't have to. This is my right.
But this is what the police they need to understand and stop harassing people. Otherwise, they're going to continue cost the government, which is us.
No, Yahsonn.
It's with taxpaying money they're going to pay out in a Bankie.
You're gonna have the people at the premier who know better on this to tell you if you have this right. Well, in a fight, and they have the and they're the lawmakers.
That's my point.
So we're talking about. So many entertainment crap.
He's in a position where he can go to the house and he can make a difference. And them a part of the lawmaker. Exactly. So coming and talking when it is convenient and having a nice set to pray on the emotions of the masses to say, by hear them and attack and the man sound good. Is one thing.
Yes.
But you in a position where you could do it. That is why I have always spoken out, and me and he always at it when it comes to this issue. Because
there's a text here, a message here I want to read.
Before you read the text, let me just finish off the point here. When the Premier was in the farmer government, when they could have done things with the cannabis, the Premier said that they throw it under the same farmer age desk because they know it would not have gone away. So they had opportunities to do things and he opted not to do anything. So sometimes when they come with these fancy talks, I let them speak, but at the same time, I know that they're in a position and the people would realize these things because you come and you have a nice fancy talk, but then you could go in the house where you could affect that change, where you could speak on it, where you could vote against it, where you could give your 2 cents, where we hire you to go. Can you get paid to go in there to talk these things, you know? Anyway, guide with the message. The comment from the...
It's a message I get here from someone living overseas who was saying, a people in Boston get medical marijuana to help them with detox from heroin and fentanyl. So you see what those states are doing in the US? The drug addict who is on heroin and fentanyl, they use the same cannabis for helping them with the detox and stuff like that, to help them to fix them, to get them straight so they could live a better life. And we don't have fight over herb, and I give people criminal records over herb. I want to see people name over herb, and they get a higher for these things. And they embrace
continue to infringe on the constitutional rights of their own people while trying to find ways to go around the constitution to accommodate another set of people. So the natural born citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis must suffer, even though the judge tell them, look, by these people have a constitutional rights. See it there. And you explain all the time, they come with the arguments, and if anybody read the Sankofa case, you can go to let me send you all where it is exactly. It is at the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Type in Sankofa Maccabee versus the Commissioner of Police, and that case will pop up. You don't have to accept anything that I'm saying. But all of these arguments were presented, and several times the defendants come with them argument there till the judge just trying to find all kind of polite ways to tell them that, boy, are you? Not them things that we come defend. Not that how we defend. See how we defend. Do he have rights as a citizen to go and possess cannabis on his private property? Does the Constitution allow that? Yes.
Since this Sankofa case didn't this lawyer, what his name was, but he got a case for a guy who take the boogery off the books and won the case for the right of privacy. You hear them talk about that? The gay guy take, and his lawyer take the government to court and take for right of privacy for the boogery act and that is off the books. They win the case. Well, what done happen? And the same with the privacy, because he used the same word with the Sankofa case. The same.
When it
The
comes to
privacy.
Rastafari, it's not a problem for them because they feel that they would not be able to control what the Constitution is telling them that they're not got the ways to control. And and that's all Judge Ventos were arguing, telling them, Judge Ventos recognized in the Sankofa case that cannabis use is integral to the religious experience of Rastafari and recognize Rastafari as a religion. Permissible licensing requires rational relationship to public health, safety, or welfare. The defendants have not demonstrated that private cultivation or possession cause demonstrable public harm, that the licensing restriction is proportionate to any legitimate aim, that less restrictive alternatives are unavailable. Judge Ventos rejected the defendant's approach in Sankofa's case. That approach without adequate support evidence is impermissible and is constitutionally suspect. This is what the judge telling them. And as a result, couldn't agree with all of those arguments that they have been presented. So I'm bringing this to light because I am saying, and I keep saying, that the arguments that are presented by our present Prime Minister and our present AG were arguments that were already presented by the former AG, the former Commissioner of Police, and the still present CMO, Chief Medical Officer.
So don't you think these scholars don't know that? They know that, but they don't care. They know that.
So why
they just play games.
Why are they so willing? Why are they so willing to trample on our rights?
They cannot get away with it. That's the whole point. That's it. What mean why?
So you have to take up a constitutional case every time. They mean that you must
the Prime Minister just ball.
You must use Article 18 every time.
The Prime Minister just ball out and say, AG, is this real? 25,000 people? Is this real? When in a SSD in place, in a day, the people that talk about 10,000 families, and then don't say one for a white games community, wherever the same SSD. We're talking about, Virgin. Is an illusion. They work upon us. They tell you what to hear and do the opposite thing on your face. That's the reality.
Bankie. Again, Judge Ventos held the constitutional dispute.
The man that came about Judge Ventos.
No, you not care. But I'm just...
the leaders they put there, they do what they want.
The public. That's why I say I am using what cable, not Cableton. My brethren, Tony Rebel. Tony Rebel say, if you find yourself in a position of influence, every time you use it, use your conscience. So I find myself in a position of influence, and so I want to be able to give people the opportunity. Because I know some people didn't read it. I know some people hear us talking Bankie, and they feel like, oh, the Rasta man just want to smoke up the thing. But I want them to understand, because Bankie had a debate with a man the other day, a taxi driver. We all have Bankie. The taxi driver telling me, as simple as it is, but it's want to show you, this is the mindset that we got to deal with. As simple as it is. I was telling the taxi driver that the government recognized Rastafari as a religion. The man said, no. The man, I said, but you know, further, that they recognize cannabis as a sacrament, just like how you bread and wine is sacrament. Boy, the man kick up. I said, but you kicking up ain't changing the fact. And this is the kind of issue that we have to deal with, because some of the people who find themselves in them position there have that kind of mindset still.
No. You entertain that. Because you see, everybody got a phone, you know. Everybody have access to a phone, a computer. They choose to be arrogant, Virgin. You just mentioned earlier today, you can talk it into the phone, if you can type it, and you get the information. You choose to be arrogant. That is not my fault. I could come here and talk, men could come here and talk twice a week. Who don't want to do their own research? Because you see, think about information. Once you read it, you choose to accept it and apply it how you want to. So someone not going to research it to read it for themselves. Because they want to wobble and wallow in the ignorance because of what the information
Well,
is. And
well,
I
I hear you,
understand that. So
Bankie.
that is not my fault,
Okay,
I
I
don't
hear
have all
you.
this
But
technology people have.
I
So
guess,
where would
I
argue
guess,
the man?
Bankie, hold
I'm not
on.
arguing
I
nobody,
just,
virgin.
I'm not arguing nobody either, but for me, at the
Yes, so let the
same time,
man be arrogant about his ways because he have a smartphone in his hand and all he have to do is Google anything he want to know and the information come there. Nobody's supposed to
yes,
fool nobody.
some are not going to do it. And so a
So
part of
that's
our
upon them.
responsibility,
Those are that
but
no, that's upon them.
a part of our responsibility is to educate the masses. And so at the same time, you can educate, I can come here and say, way. But I can also say, the way I am saying is coming from X, Y, or Z. And you could go look for X, Y, or Z, but I just giving you a little piece. And that's all I'm doing.
Yes, but there are those who will not go and look it because they want to ask the wrong that what they see. That's just what I'm trying to tell you.
But at
You're gonna have
least,
people like that, virgin. So now we're
but at
about
least,
those who
yes,
want to
and
learn,
that's
gonna
something I
learn.
worry about them. But at the same time, at least I know I put some of it out there, especially some that is relevant to the arguments that I am making. Like, for example, as I said, Judge Vento said, the constitutional issues in this case are narrow ones and focuses only on the use, possession, and cultivation of cannabis by adults for use in the Rastafari religion, and also the use, possession, and cultivation of cannabis by adults in private for personal consumption. They do not touch or concern the issue of trafficking in cannabis, illegal drugs, or other illegal activities. So I'm just pointing out that that is why I keep saying what the judge was dealing with was a specific area. They went along the area that he dealt with. They want to show that down into a whole other thing while trying to push their agenda. When you ask the question, can you come back to the question you asked? Why them who been fighting now want to run with it and come to the decriminalization? And I'm pointing out because they see how they could make the money from it, taxing people
Well, we
from it,
know
and that is
that.
why they choose
It's
to
just I
focus
just
on the
being
medical
sarcastic.
side and not just true. But see the problem that I have. We ain't stopping you from dealing with that, but you don't need to crumple our rights in order to do that. You don't need to shut us out because that is why I'm saying even if we choose to go, we still ain't gonna be meeting your standards. Cause we ain't gonna come in to test whatever. So we think gonna still be within.
You
You're gonna
have a group
still
of
have
people
your
that do not like
standards.
cannabis, virgin.
You're gonna still
You
have
have
the
a group of
standards
people
that you have.
running your country who don't love cannabis and have
But
them
what
in
they,
charge of
but,
running the
but
country.
this is what
You're gonna
this is why
affect
this is
them. They're
important, Bankie.
personal.
This is why this is important because what Judge Ventos say is me not care about you and your feelings. Because Judge Ventos hear all of them and them feelings there. And this is what we're saying. So if the government can, if them themselves can respect the judiciary, then that means me have to agree with what Sam Kanda saying the other day that the constitution ain't what the paper that it is written on.
Well,
And then that means
but here you know, but here this, but here, but here you
they're
know,
proving to me.
but here you know, where you're gonna also
Uh-huh.
proving my point over and over. You're gonna agree with Sam Kanda when he was in there for
Mhm.
over nearly 30 years, virgin.
No, no,
All
no,
about
no,
the
no.
same thing.
Hold on.
Well, he know the
I
constitution.
just use
They know the
I just
constitution.
use
It ain't what the paper you write pan, virgin. They know this thing. All them know these
I
things.
just
You don't need
use
people
his
to tell
name
you that.
because I just use no no
But
no
you
I
need
just
people to
use
tell
his
you
name
that,
because he said it
virgin.
recently. He said it
But
recently.
you don't need to tell you that. We know, we all know these things. This is the whole
No.
point. We know
Uh-huh.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
Me and you know these
But
things,
we don't know these
Banky.
things.
Me and
We
you
don't
know
know
these
these
things, but a
things.
lot of people who are listening to us don't. And that is
Staff
why
says so.
part of what we do
Staff
here is
says so. They know.
education.
No, they know. You're trying to think you're going to save the world, but you're not going to save the world, yeah. That's what we're trying to do. Because they know. They're those who just going to stay arrogant,
But Banky,
virgin.
okay,
That's just the
stop,
reality.
wait, hold on. You said they know. You said they know, right?
They know.
But hold
Of course
on.
they know.
But this baffles me. You would have heard recently the prime minister and the AG say, well, they cannot legalize cannabis because of public safety and public health and all of these things. But here's the point that I am making, and that's what I say. Right here in front of me, the defendants in Sankofa case argued for total prohibition based on these arguments: public health, public safety. But Justice Ventos rejected this. he said, rather than find ways in which the religious ways may be accommodated, the defendants maintained through their affidavit evidence, submissions, and during oral arguments that a total prohibition is necessary in the interest of public health and public safety. That approach without adequate supporting evidence is impermissible and is constitutionally suspect. Because that is what they were trying to argue. And so I'm trying to show you, you said that they're supposed to know, but these arguments were already made, and these are the same arguments that the people who should know are still making in trying to deny us of those same constitutional rights that Judge Ventos would have clearly highlighted in this case that we have. So if they know,
okay, so you're telling me, so you're telling, so no. So you're telling me the DPP, Mr. Ali, scholars of all these La Fraternity, the Bar Association, the AG, none of them know about the case that you read about. No, Judge Venture say you read them over 1,000,000 times and they don't know. So only you know. They don't know. They don't know. That's what you tell me tonight. And all the other nights you're reading this thing and keep saying the AG and the Prime Minister. They don't know that. That's what you tell me. They don't know that. Answer me. They don't know. That's what you tell me. And all these colors around here, you know.
Watch here.
They don't know.
Watch here. Watch here. Okay. So
No,
me getting the
is there
benefit of the doubt. Me don't know if they know.
Is that
Me don't know
yes
if they know.
or you don't know?
But here, you want
But
me to
I
do.
know they know. No,
Okay,
no,
you know
I
they
know
know.
they know.
Me want to make sure.
Yeah, me know
Me
they
want to
know.
make sure if them not know. Me want to make sure if them not know that other people know. So that other people can also join
They know them
with
are the law.
me.
It's them are the law. Are them who are infringing the rights. The same law you about. Are them infringing the rights, you know? So we're talking saying, you yeah, woman to your mouth about this thing and them are the law. The other people like me can't own have to fight for the rights, you know? Because them are infringing the rights. The same AG and the feminists and the whole cabinet and the DPP and them are the problem, you know? So what you say, they don't know about the case here? No, you me ask you, they don't know about the case here. Can you read out the case here? They don't know about the case here.
Bankie.
That what you tell me?
So Bankie.
You know,
Me supposed to.
yes, I know.
I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know.
I give up.
I don't know.
I give up. I play the
I
fifth.
don't know.
About the case there. I give up.
Watch here. Why I can't say I got to say I don't know. Because me see these things in front of me. And it got me a wonder, well, if the High Court has said this,
all right,
and then man ain't even respecting the Constitution or the High Court, well, what we really dealing with? What kind of society we dealing with?
Case, they never hear about the case before. They never hear about the stand cover case. Nobody don't know about the case now, Yahsonn.
It is the duty of the High Court. It is the duty of the High Court to uphold the Constitution against contraventions by either the executive or the Parliament. And where contraventions are found to exist, to grant declarations and appropriate relief to any persons with a relevant interest whose fundamental rights and freedoms have been or are being contravened. The duty of the court in this behalf is higher where fundamental rights are involved. It is the constitutional duty of the courts to be vigilant and to resist even petty encroachment upon the fundamental rights, privileges, and immunities of the people. So this is the judge telling them, Bankie, that I hear all of what you say, telling the same executive, the same government, the same executive. You were talking to Ian Quealy. He was talking to Miss Laws, and he was talking to.
And then how much executive come since then? How much executive come around? Then since then, how much executive come around?
Me don't know, but the point I'm making is that they're supposed to know.
We don't hear you.
And a lot of us still don't know.
Who don't know?
Because when me and you get up and I said this right now. When I say right now, me and you say right now, Rastafari have the right to grow any amount of cannabis on the premises, private premises. They look at us as both stupid. This is how you said.
Who?
Because some people just don't know that this is our constitutional rights.
Yeah, fine, but they can still Google it and read it the same with the other phone.
That is something totally different to what they're speaking about on the public side. When you're going to sell and when you're going to need license to all of these other things, when it comes to public use, this case had nothing to do with public use. This case was to do with private. And the regulations speak to private. And they were told to amend the drug act.
You see the problem here with these simple things, because these are simple things, but we are complicating things. Everybody complicating and putting and saying things how they want in their own perspective and not going what the facts are. You can't change the facts. And that's why from the get-go, I always stick with the Constitution that give every citizen the right to use cannabis, but for their own personal rights. That's it. Okay? That's all it is. I mean, now worry about the others, because it belong to the Constitution and everything will surround the Constitution. That's all it is. So they know. They know. And they know. And they know again. So I'm not make an excuse for none of them. Let me get to them other comments them here, and then we can get into the final wrap up.
If they know, then we should be blaming our politicians for having to pay our taxes, because they're going to have to pay out money to people for the wrongs that they do, and the money that they're paying out is our money. That's the other difficulty, you know, because our taxes ain't the money they're taking up and spending, you know. So when the police cars them to do these shoppiness, it's still we suffering.
In 1970, the Christina sink. How many people get paid out? What are you talking saying? Who taking blame for that? Huh? When August first come, they go and put roses and sing some halabaloo and entertainment and put down 1 or 2 reef. Who family get compensated for that? How many people done dead? Huh? That affect our agricultural sector. Our people are heartless. If you're not going to compensate the family of the Christian disaster, you're going to compensate anybody from cannabis? And when they get locked up, they're not dead. They might get brutal. I'm just general reference, and it's say, and the worst. The Christian disaster was the worst.
But based on your point,
and we're accepting these things.
We ain't talking about compensation yet. We're just talking about allowing them to exercise their constitutional right. So imagine they not even want to allow you to exercise the constitutional right. You gone to as far as compensation? Many gone so far, because see here, what we're arguing about is they were breaching it for all these years. And Rastafari took them to court. The court would have highlighted the fact that our rights would have been breached over all of those years. And even though the courts have highlighted that and told them to go and amend the act and told them nothing could supersede the Constitution, instead of allowing us to exercise our rights, they're still trying to find ways and means to restrict, and in the most restrictive means, when anything that has to do with the Constitution must pass the least restrictive means test. And these things that they're trying to put in place doesn't even come anywhere close, because you want to tell an adult that the Constitution says you could grow as many trees as you want, but you're trying to restrict them down to 5. How is that least restrictive? That nowhere from any amount to 5. Back to the comments.
We're getting the comments on them. Yeah.
Deslin says they're choosing to ignore it. Kush says thank you for the clarification, yes, brother. You're welcome. Slaughterhouse says greetings and love. Idrin Slaughterhouse says that's why I keep saying to all I can, we owe none of them an explanation or even a conversation about herb, because we already see the agenda. We just have to do what we have to do. Kush says, oh brother Yahsonn, I get it now. And Warrior Bankie, the officers who were arrested should be dismissed as they have committed a crime of wrongful arrest. She says, so I can fill my yard with trees, and if they lock me up, I will tell them so the police for wrongful arrest. Well, technically, because the reality is you should have that fundamental right. It is your fundamental right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. Your rights are being infringed upon if and when they come to you for that. If public sale and all of that, that is where they come in. And even down to that, they still have not sought out all of the regulations that they should have. That is why even on the same Rastafari Act, which we just deem also is unconstitutional and need to be addressed because it still infringes upon these rights that we are here highlighting. And they know that too. They know that, but because they want to still push the agenda. And you know what's sad? They could have appealed
Yes,
the case. They could have
let me
appealed
get in
the
all the
case.
comments and them. Let me get in the comments.
Could have
Them.
opted not to appeal the case. So anyway, the comments on the Facebook wall now. That's the only thing they don't do that the US does. Cheech Warner says, yes, all tricks they into. Ras been 40 years I leave Nevis and the situation with the weed is unchanged. Hold on, brothers, make that change. Right? Says they done you wrong, then no. And yeah, that's the comments on the wall so far. I want to say thanks to all those who would have locked down and who are still locked down. All I want to encourage you all to do, all who are here, do me one favor. Before you leave, subscribe to, if you're watching on Facebook, subscribe to the Facebook platform. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube platform. Like, share it. Let somebody else hear the reasoning and share it to somebody else and let somebody else hear the reasoning. Because the more people hear the reasoning, the more people can also go out and do some more research. And that's what we're hoping. Because I'm not just coming and trying to read this because I want to read these things, but I also want to let you know that a lot of these things that we're talking about, there's grounds, there's evidence, right, for bringing such arguments to the table. If you didn't know, we're saying that you should know, but just in case you didn't know, we're bringing certain things and showing you where you can go to get the rest. So like I was saying, you can go to the East Caribbean Supreme Court and you can type in Ras Sankofa Maccabee versus the Commissioner of Police. And most of these things that you hear me reading, you would find here. Some of what I would have read here came from a motion that I am putting together to address some of these issues and argue them from those perspectives, right? Because that is what needs to be done. Bankie, we are playing our part, Bankie, and I love the exchange, and sometimes people might not understand it, but it is part of what helps us. We would not necessarily agree on everything, and so you would always hear me and Bankie have our exchanges. That's just how it is. And if you have a brethren and you and your brethren agree on everything, so something definitely wrong. And if you can have a brethren that you all have a disagreement, and at the end of the disagreement, I could still sit and have a drink, or in our case, burn a spliff together, enjoy a little reasoning together when done, well, something wrong with that. Because at the end of the day, tomorrow, me and Bankie going to reason. We don't have to agree on everything, and we will not agree on everything. And we disagree on a lot of things, because I can remember, like I was telling Carty today, when we had the conversation, I get accused from Bankie of actually, supporting Ayo, because I am the one who was saying that I respect the fact that Ayo doing Ayo job, because Ayo part is to uphold the law. Who we supposed to really get vexed with is our politicians and the technocrats who ain't doing what they're supposed to do in relation to putting the regulations together, and are, even in putting the regulations together, seeking to be more restrictive than they should be based on what the case would have highlighted and based on our constitutional rights. So these are the things that we are presenting and putting forward in our arguments in an effort also to seek to educate the masses. And so people, we love the engagement. We want to encourage you to continue to do your own research and come on board and support. This is not just a Rastafari thing either. And that is why I say also that I like to get the views of some others. And I want to put this out there as we are about to wrap up. Any constitutional lawyer, I would love to get in touch with somebody like Chesley Hamilton, that sheriff, the cowboy who always got on that cowboy hat, that defense lawyer, because I would love to get a person like him, his perspective on some of these things that I am highlighting and putting forward, so that another legal mind can say, well, okay, you sound like you're making sense, you ain't really chatting foolishness, you know what I mean? Not that I know that we're not chatting foolishness, because I know we know what we're saying, but it's always good to get that other opinion. Bankie, again, as we close up.
I'm going to work on getting Chesley. I'm going to get in contact.
I want to put a plug in for Rastafari month. So, July 23rd is the Urchang of His Imperial Majesty. And there was a quest out there to celebrate Rastafari week, and I think the government actually is looking to do something. I don't know if it's a week or 2 months. They're looking to put together a celebration in commemoration to recognizing Rastafari. But we are saying there's a group and an organization of Rastafari brethren, I think for the past year or two on St. Kitts, they would have been pushing a commemoration for Rastafari month, the month of July, to be recognized as Rastafari month and have a number of celebrations and celebrations, as we would say, throughout the month. And so I am taking this opportunity to put that sound out there, and for those who may be interested in getting on board and maybe being more involved in such a forward movement, to reach out and let me know. And if I have to set up a WhatsApp chat and so on for us to begin communication and begin putting things together, that I will do. So I just wanted to put that in and put that plug in as we wrap things up for this evening. And also, I'm going to publicly mention that I would have gotten word from Inspector Carty that he's willing to come on the platform, and I am willing to interview him. He said I must get the questions put together for him and so on. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to invite him to the platform. So I am putting it out there to look forward eventually for that interview with Inspector Carty, to bring in an effort to help to dispel some of the issues that are out there in relation to the police and their views and how they deal with the public and how they respect the public's constitutional rights, and disrespecting, and why the public may have that reaction towards them because they recognize that their rights are being infringed. And if they don't know, Mr. Carty, you and your crew should know. And that is how I guess you all function as well, because sometimes you all come on people and when they say they don't know, they didn't know you, you say that they ought to know. So we are using the same yardstick for you guys as well, that you all ought to know, right? And so with that said, Bankie, that's basically, I could use that as my closing, and wrapping up for this evening. You whatever you would want to add to that.
Well, let me just let the listening audience and viewing audience know that is not our standard, where we give the guest information question before they come on the show. That between Yahsonn and Carty, not me. So I'm not part of that. So put that out there. That is not real entertainment. We don't do that. Or we get our guests, they come and we ask the question. Then we don't give. So we don't want no one order to think that we don't give prep our guests when they come and we ask them this kind of question and so forth. So me know a question, yes, no Carty come and I give him a question when he come and ask he answer me ask the question, not both party. So that between you and Carty. So we put that out there. So then I go think we'll entertainment to do that to our guest. Because next week Tuesday we have Janice Daniel Hodge. She don't know me ask her. All the guests might come on the show, he don't know we're asking them. Mr. Sidgewall, we come on all the hundreds of guests we have, we don't give them no information and a question. They come as they are and we reason. And that's how we do it here. So Mr. put that out there, nobody gonna think me a give Carty no question before he come. If you don't want to come, that his business. That's how me put it out there. We do not give nobody no question before they come here. So me not gonna break my rules and how me go about doing this. Carty not gonna change up the rules pan top here. We put it out there. He come because he is our slave. He come answer the question them. We not butter it up here. All right? But just want to say thanks to all those who keep us keeping the viewing and keep choosing Real Entertainment Network. Greatly appreciate that out there. And so thanks again. And the farmers, the fisher folks, stay hydrated when it comes to this extreme heat and stuff like that. And definitely looking forward for next week Tuesday for the reasoning with Janice Daniel Hodge and the way forward and the plan for NRP and the future of Nevis and stuff like that. But definitely we'll get in contact with Chesley Hamilton. But again, thanks for those who chose the Real Entertainment Network, and definitely work on Carty. Looking forward for having that reasoning with Carty. But the Carty, no, with Real Entertainment Network don't move like that. So we don't want to get nobody to get comfortable and think when they come in here, they don't want to give them question in advance. We don't work like that. All right, so technician.
security. That's the priority. Plant the food locally. Feed the whole community. Everything agriculture. Building for the future. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Too much food coming overseas. One disruption bring the country to knees. One storm, one war, one delay. Supermarket shelves empty same day. So we have to plant more yam and dasheen. Fresh vegetables keep the people clean. Raise more goat, more chicken too. Local farming must come true. Every backyard can grow something. Pepper, thyme and pumpkin. Teach the youth we love the soil. Agriculture reward the tile. Hey, if the import stop tomorrow, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. If the import stop tomorrow, hey, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally. Feed the whole community. Everything agriculture. Building for the future. Hey, Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Cannabis industry growing fast, creating opportunities built to last. Medicinal herbs and business too. Education changing how we view. Greenhouse farming changing the game. Hydroponics helping the grain. Fishery, livestock, fruit tree line. Agriculture make the island shine. Support local every chance I get. Farmer working hard, don't forget. No nation strong if the people can't eat. Local food keep the country complete. Wave your hand for the farmers them. Wave your hand for the growers them. Plant more food. Grow more food. Feed the nation like we should. From St. Kitts straight across every side. Food security must be the guide. Aye. 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 No country say without local crops. Never stops. Never stops. From the mountains to the sea. Farming bring prosperity. Food security. Everything, that's the priority. Plant the food locally. Feed the whole community. Everything agriculture. Building for the future. Bankie and Yahsonn every week now. Ren bring the real solution. Oh, yeah. It's everything agriculture. With Bankie and Yahsonn. Catch us live every week on Real Entertainment Network. Watch on Facebook and YouTube. Ren TV. Everything agriculture. Where food security is everybody business.